where do we start? The cost of living. It's gone through the roof. Take this bag of logs here in a local supermarket. £7.50. And I've looked at all the bags, they have either 7 or 8 small logs in them. So that makes them basically £1 a log. Then of course we have coal. And as any boater will tell you, the supermarket coal is not top quality. And here we have two choices. One at £9 for a 10 kilo bag, and one at £8.50 for a 10 kilo bag. I can tell you, if you want to buy a 20 kilo bag of Excel, most places now are charging £20 for a 20 kilo bag. That makes it £1 a kilo for coal. And here we have some tiny little bags of kindling. I think they actually look smaller than they were last year, for £4.50. Last year, in exactly the same supermarket, they were £3 a bag. Now I call that a 50% increase. According to the government, we have 10% inflation. Perhaps the Chancellor's better at doing mathematics than I am. And just think, last year you could buy a 25 kilo bag of coal for 11 quid. Yes, prices have gone through the roof. So what can we do to help offset these costs? Well, I'll show you a few things which might help. This is my biggest way of saving money. Collecting, soaring and chopping up my own firewood. So far this year I haven't burnt any coal. I've only burnt firewood which I've collected. If I've been burning coal, because I've had the fire going just about every day now for over a month, that would have cost me, I don't know, £80–100. So far this year, zero. I do have a bag of coal on the boat, which I actually bought back in June or July when I was up on the Peak Forest Canal. And I was intending to buy a bag of coal every month, but diesel prices got out of hand, so that didn't happen. So now I'm very reliant upon collecting firewood. Okay, it gets a bit damp out here. What I do is I bring it in before I need it, and I have some drying by the fire. I'll show you that. So here I have some firewood drying by the fire. It dries quite quickly here. It's only rain moisture. It's all seasoned wood, so it's just moisture I'm trying to drive off, and within a few hours it's bone dry. This has only been here about an hour, and it's almost ready to go into my stack of wood ready to burn, which I'll show you right now. So here's my box of wood ready to burn. There's enough in there probably at the moment for one day. It's quite big pieces, so it burns for a long time. One of these big pieces will last a good hour burning. So yeah, that's all the dry stuff. I never buy kindling either. Here I have a big, little bag full up of kindling which I've made. Some of that was from a pallet I dragged out of the lock at Long Eaton. Some of it is pieces of wood, just regular round pieces I've split up into kindling. It's all hardwood in here. I much prefer hardwood kindling than the softwood kindling that you'll buy in the store. Number one, it burns twice as long and twice as hot. It will light almost anything. And here's another tip. Got some oil left in the pan after I've been cooking. Take a piece of kitchen towel, like you'd probably do anyway, so you don't get all the fat down the drain or in your sink. Wipe it all out as you would normally. Then instead of throwing that in the bin, I screw it up into a bowl and I pop it in the bag. Make perfect fire lighters. And before I hear you all out there complaining about me using the old cooking oil as firelighters, just remember what firelighters are made out of: paraffin wax. Well, that basically covers keeping my boat and myself warm all winter. But now let's see how we can also use some of that heat to save even more money. Firstly, I keep a kettle sitting on the top of the stove, except for when the boat's moving, in case it falls off. The kettle is just off the boil, so it's quite warm at the moment. Ignore the ugly avocado. It's an old boat. It was fashionable back then. Yes, 3 hot water for shaving. I'm really glad that I took out my gas radiator central heating from the boat and put the solid fuel stove in. It has saved an absolute fortune, especially now with the price of a 13-kilogram bottle of propane gas costing somewhere in the region of £50. And that's a refill, not an outright buy. So I look at other ways of saving even more money instead of using the gas, using the stove. And here's my next example. Doing your dishes. Why waste the gas when you've got hot water on the stove? A little cold. Sorry about the noise in the background. My water pump is underneath the sink. And top it off with the hot water. Heated freely on the stove. And here's another one. Warming my lunch up. I cooked some wings yesterday. I got some left over, so I'm warming them up today. I'm using the top of the stove to do so. In a pan and wrap them in foil. Just like so. They'll take about 20 minutes to warm through here on top of the stove. I'll give them about 12 or 13 minutes on this side, then I'll turn them over for another 7 or 8 minutes. Well, there's a few ways of saving money. It can save an awful lot of money as well at the end of the day. Using the fire for all sorts of other things than keeping warm is a great benefit of having the solid fuel stove. Now, I'm sure a lot of you out there have a lot of other great ideas also. So please put them in the comments below. That way everybody can get to see them and everybody can benefit on all your great saving tips and hacks. So please put them in the comments below and we can all benefit. Now let's see what we can do with electricity and saving money there as well. Now when it comes to electricity, unless you're in a marina, you have to generate all your own. And if you're like myself, a continuous cruiser, that is the only way we get electricity. Now, when we generate electricity, or for most of us anyway, from our engine, we're generating 12 volts. I have a 70 amp hour alternator on the boat, which charges my leisure batteries and my starter battery. But of course, the leisure batteries are where we draw all our electricity from for use in the boat. There are other ways, of course, of charging your batteries. You could use a generator, which I don't have, or solar panels, which I do have. So we'll get onto that in a moment. Well, I do have an inverter on the boat, which converts my 12 volts from my leisure batteries to 220 volts. Yes, it's not quite 240, but it's 220 volts. And I have a pure sine wave inverter. So basically the electricity I get from my inverter is clean and it's basically the same as what you'd get plugging in at home. Firstly, of course, is using LED lights rather than what was on the boat originally, which were halogen lights. Another thing, I charge my batteries for my chainsaw, which as you can see are charged now, when I'm moving the boat. So the engine's running and I'm getting the electricity, charging everything up. I try to charge all the batteries for my cameras and everything at the same time when the engine is running, because I'm moving the boat. Normally I'll be able to fully charge up the batteries, the leisure batteries anyway, plus all the other batteries, because I'm normally moving the boat for quite long periods of time. Obviously if you're only moving the boat for a few minutes, it's probably not a good idea to do this. You'd like to fill up your leisure batteries first. Another thing I like to use when I'm actually moving the boat is my slow cooker, especially in the winter time. I can throw that in there early in the morning before setting off, and when I stop I have a lovely hot meal ready for me, which has basically been cooked for free. Can't beat that also, can you? Although I normally do start most of the ingredients off on the stove, so I have used some gas to get things cooked, perhaps things like onions and peppers or other ingredients which need frying off first. If you have solar panels, here's another little tip. Unfortunately I'm moored near trees. It's because I've moored to come up and do some shopping at Rugby, or Browns over the mooring is at. Make sure you keep all the leaves off and keep them clean. So a quick wipe down every day can help save you a lot of money on diesel charging your batteries. Yes, okay, this time of the year you won't get anywhere near as much solar energy as you will in the summer, but every little helps. So keeping your solar panels clear is a big deal for me. The other thing is, if possible, try not to moor in the shade. Try and work out where the sun is and where it's going to go that day, so you can keep your solar panels in the sun all day if it happens to shine. Not particularly today, a little bit overcast. Well, as I said, you're not going to get an awful lot of electric off your solar panels this time of year, especially as I'm not particularly moored in the open. But before I wiped them off, I had 1 amp coming in. Well, it's now read 1.7, but when I first turned the camera on, that was 2 amps. I think it's clouding up out there, so it's actually dropping all the time. But any power for free is good power. That's what I say. And it saves a few drops of diesel. It all adds up in the end. As you all know, I live on a narrowboat. But a lot of these techniques I've used here, you possibly could use even in your own home. A lot of homes these days have solar panels on the roof. I'm not telling you to climb up on the roof to clean them, but perhaps get somebody in to clean them. It could make a huge difference on the amount of electricity you get coming in. A lot of you have solid fuel stoves at home, so keeping water on them or heating them up, or if you have a Rayburn or an essay or something, you probably do anyway on those. But just saying, there's an awful lot of ways of saving money, especially in the circumstances which are going on in the moment in the world. Yes, it's not just the UK that is having a crisis, it is the whole world. Well, I hope those tips came in useful to you. And if they didn't, I hope you enjoyed the video. Big thank you, of course, goes out to all my PayPal, Patreon, and Super Thanks supporters, and everybody else for watching and contributing in whichever way you do. If you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe. It really helps the channel. And hit that old bell notification button. That way, YouTube will inform you every time I upload a new video. That's if you click all, because otherwise sometimes YouTube doesn't inform you anymore. It's got very picky just lately. Well, that just leaves me to say, thank you very much for watching. Trevor out.